We are back on record after a tape change at 12:18 p.m.
Thank you. Mr. Hobbs, you understand you're still under oath, and your testimony today still has the same force and effect as though you were testifying in front of the judge and the jury, correct?
I do.
All right. Now, you didn't attend the rally, did you?
No, I did not.
Did you? How'd you find out about it, that Miss Pazdar was there?
It was all over the news.
All over the news. Have you gone to the internet and watched the speech?
No.
No. When it was on the news, what do you?
I might have seen it on the TV, but I didn't go to the internet.
Well, they didn't show the whole. They didn't show her whole statement, even though it was pretty short. They didn't show the whole thing on the TV, did they? Just a little blurb. Right?
Probably.
I mean, we've seen the TV excerpts, and I think they've been produced and stipulated to here. I mean,
Okay.
you've seen all the stipulations, right?
Probably.
Well, I mean, let me back up here. That's a good question. Have you seen the 4 stipulations that have been entered in this case?
As being.
Entered in this case. There are 4 stipulations. I can show them to you, but they're pretty thick down here. But the 4 stipulations that have been entered by the parties in this case, have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
You have to answer out loud.
I don't think so.
Have you reviewed all of the newspaper articles and whatnot that have been exchanged between the parties? Newspaper articles, magazine articles, TV reports, internet articles about the case in the West Memphis 3. Have you reviewed those?
I have kept up with several of them.
Okay. Of the statements of the articles that are contained in any of the 4 stipulations, you're not aware of any statement attributed to you in which you're misquoted, are you?
Objectives to form like foundation.
Still get the answer to it, Mr. Hobbs. You're not aware of any of the documents or exhibits that form the basis of stipulation 1, 2, 3, or 4 where you're misquoted, are you?
No, I'm not
Same.
sure.
Okay. I'm sorry. You said you're not aware, correct?
Correct.
And as far as this lawsuit is concerned, you believe that you were, in fact, accurately quoted in the articles that are attached as exhibits to the 4 stipulations. Is that correct?
Objectives to form like foundation.
I'm not sure.
But you're certainly not aware where you were misquoted.
Well, I'm sure that's happened.
Well, where do you recall being misquoted?
I don't have it in front of me, but I wouldn't doubt if there's misquotations out there.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll go through the exhibits later, and we'll see if you can see where you are misquoted, or if you were. So how did you find out about the rally? You found out because it was on the TV, right?
And a reporter called me,
Who called you?
Miss Janice Broach.
The same one you called about the DNA earlier in the year?
I've talked to Janice millions of times.
How many times do you call her as opposed to she calls you?
I don't know.
I mean, you call her as many times as she calls you?
Well, we don't call each other on a regular basis, no.
But when there's something new,
Back during all these allegations, I talked to Janice.
okay. Matter of fact, Janice, that's the same one we talked about earlier this morning when you called her in the spring to let her know about the DNA results, right?
I'm not sure.
I mean, that's the same Janice, right?
Janice Broach, Channel 5, Memphis, Tennessee.
Right. You said, why have you talked to her a million times?
Because I can, because I want to.
And she takes your calls?
Sure.
She takes your calls because this is kind of an ongoing story?
Probably. And she returns my calls if I need her to.
Okay. What do you recall you and Janice talking about the day of the rally?
She called me up and wanted to know if I was in the rally because she heard that I was.
Was this before the rally took place?
During the rally, it sounded like she was there at the time.
Okay, she was there. All right, and obviously you weren't.
Correct.
Did she call you on a cell or she call you at home?
I have a cell phone.
How long have you had a cell phone?
10 years probably.
Did you have a cell phone back in '93?
I don't think so.
think they were pretty new back then.
Yeah, it was probably coming out then.
Yeah. Did you, after the rally, well, let me back up. When she called you, any other conversations other than Janice asking if you were at the rally?
Not about the rally. She called me from the rally that day.
What did you guys talk about?
She asked me if I was here at the rally. She said, someone said they spotted you. I said, no, Janice, I'm at work.
What else did y'all talk about? Talk about the DNA results?
I don't remember.
Talk about what Ms. Pazdar was saying?
Probably.
What-
I don't remember what was said, but it was at that rally that she called me.
Okay. Did you subsequently review what was said at the rally by Ms. Pazdar
In the papers.
in the papers? Anywhere else?
Probably on TV.
TV? Anywhere else?
Maybe in the magazines.
What magazines?
Whatever magazines printed them. Time magazine had a piece in there about it. Probably others. I don't remember.
Okay. So Time had an article about the rally?
I believe it did, yes.
CNN cover it?
Well, it was all over the airways again.
Okay. It was all about the court filings that that the West Memphis 3 had filed, though, right? That's what was all over the airways. The new evidence, the DNA
new
filings.
evidence.
I mean, that's what was being covered. It wasn't the rally where Natalie spoke for 3 minutes, was it?
Yeah, it was there. It was on the news.
It was mentioned, but the focus of the CNN and the Time and all those other articles was the substance of the habeas filing, right?
I guess. I'm not sure.
Hand you some marked Exhibit 3. I think I gave you right there. That, Mr. Hobbs, is a transcript of Ms. Pazdar's statements at the rally. And I would like you to tell me, one, where you're mentioned, and two, what you think she said about you that caused you damage.
Objection. Calls for legal conclusion.
And we can break it up if you like. Where in there are you mentioned by name, Mr. Hobbs? You're not mentioned, are you?
Not by name.
Okay. Where in what is said? What does Ms. Pazdar say at the rally that caused you injury?
Object is to form to the extent that calls for a legal conclusion.
All the evidence.
Where are you reading, sir?
When you see the films and when you go to the website, you'll learn about the case and all the evidence that is there. And this is there now. You just feel like, what can I do?
Okay.
We know what she's talking about there. All the new evidence is the crap they come up with about me, which has no merit whatsoever.
Anything else that she says that you, during the rally, that you believe caused you any injury, sir?
Same objection.
It's fine. Or is that it? else, Mr. Hobbs?
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
I don't know.
Well, see, this is my one chance where I get to ask you the questions. And so if there's something else in this statement that you are complaining about that you think caused you injury, I want to know about it now.
Objection, he's not required to lay out legal theories. He's
I'm not
a fact
asking for
witness.
legal theories. I'm
Sure
asking.
you are. You're asking for him to apply the proof to the law, asking for a legal strategy. You're
Can I-
asking him to say that he won't make an argument later on.
You can answer the question, Mr. Hobbs.
Well, I would feel like that she's saying her scientifically proven statement is what they've come up with the stuff about me.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
That's it. All right. We'll go ahead and take a break for lunch. We've been going for a little bit. Off the record.
Right.
We're going off record for a break at 12:30 p.m. We are back on record after a break at 1:20 p.m.
Ted, did you want to?
Yes, very quickly, I'd like to reserve the right to read and sign, which I forgot to do on the front end.
That's fine.
Thanks.
Also, before we start, I wanted to put on the record, and, Cody and Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, that with regard to finishing the deposition this afternoon, we've agreed that if I need to leave for the airport, that Ms. Davis can step in on behalf of Ms. Pasdar and ask some additional questions, and there's no objection from you guys for legal term tag teaming.
That's correct.
All right. And also, we discussed right before we came back in our desire, everybody's desire, to try to finish the deposition of Mr. Hobbs today if possible, but with the understanding that it may be that as we approach the end of the business day that either the lawyers get tired or Mr. Hobbs gets tired, and no one wants the witness to get tired and provide inaccurate testimony, so that we would evaluate the ability or the need to adjourn the deposition to then reconvene it at a time that is convenient to both the witness and all counsel. Right?
Yes.
All right. And then finally, we reached an agreement in the hall that with regard to both of the plaintiff's motions for partial summary judgment, the one that was filed a couple weeks ago as well as the one that was filed yesterday, we've agreed to extend the date by which the defendants need to respond to those motions until September the 15th. And
Now, is that both motions?
both motions.
Okay.
Both motions. And that we, by way of full disclosure, that the defendants anticipate filing motions for summary judgment in that time frame, and that we will be similarly accommodating with regard to extensions of time that you guys think that you need, so that with the goal of being to avoid any Rule 56F motions, to be able to get the discovery that either side needs to respond, and to have a single date on which the court could consider the motions at hearing. Is that right?
That's correct.
So we will prepare the appropriate paperwork to extend the response dates with regard to the plaintiff's two motions for summary judgment. We'll get that to you guys to look at this week with the goal of getting that filed. And we appreciate the professionalism in that regard, and understand that it will be reciprocated.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Bob, you okay with all that?
Yeah, my only concern is that February trial date, and we're pushing, I mean, if we don't file a motion for summary judgment, we need to get ours on file if we're going to do it.
We're going to do it, and we'll get it on file, and if we can get our responses filed earlier, we'll do it. But
I understand all that. I'm just concerned that with a February trial date, we don't get all the responses and things into summary judgment motions until, November. It's going to be tough.
we'll get it done.
It's not just us, but it's also Cody
Absolutely.
responding. And okay,
We'll work it through.
I'm fine with all of it.
Perfect. All right. Everybody ready? All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Hobbs.
I don't know.
You understand you're still under oath?
I
Still
do.
has the same force and effect in front of the judge and the jury testifying?
I do.
And you did really well this morning on speaking up and verbally. If I could ask you to continue that this afternoon. I know sometimes in the afternoon people get a little tired and voices
Okay.
tend to trail off. If if you could speak up, I'll try to do the same. Is that fair?
Sounds good.
All righty. Would it be, you also spoke with a woman by the name of Kathy Fry at the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, correct?
I did.
And matter of fact, you reached out and called her, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and you did because she was another person in the media that you wanted to contact and get your story out about the DNA, right?
I didn't know Kathy. I just wanted someone in the media, in the newspaper, to hear what I had to say. And they assigned Kathy to this
Okay. And you spoke with her several times, I assume.
a few times.
A few times. And you spoke with her both before and after Ms. Pazdar's letter appeared on the internet, correct?
I'm not sure about the time frame.
All right. Do you recall when you first spoke with her?
No.
Okay. It was in '07, though, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know. Not sure of the dates.
Okay. There was an article in the Arkansas Democratic Gazette that came out in early '08, correct? You recall that article?
I'm not sure of the date.
Not the date, but you recall that the article came out, right?
I know we did an article. I'm not sure when it come out.
Do you recall how many articles came out in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette?
No.
More than one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah? How many?
I don't know.
Bunch?
I don't know. I live in Tennessee.
All righty.
Just by clarification with respect to which, the case as a whole or written by Ms. Fry, I lost where we were at.
Fair enough. Let me ask you, let me show you an article, Mr. Hobbs, if I could. It's Exhibit 39, Ted, to Stipulation Number 1. Mr. Hobbs, this is an article written by Kathy Fry, appeared in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, February 3, 2008. And ask if you, and this is one of the,
I remember this.
reputation is ruined, says stepdad of boy killed in '93. And this was one of the articles that Miss Fry wrote, right?
It looks like it.
Yeah. You have to speak up for everybody to hear.
It looks like
It
it.
looks like it. And in here talks about, among other things, the DNA report, right?
Okay.
And how you're linked to it, correct?
Okay.
Well, it does that, right? You recall that.
Vaguely.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is one of the articles you worked with.
Right. And I haven't read it recently, so I'm
appreciate
not
that.
really sure.
I appreciate it. Do you recall reading it when it came out?
Sure. I recall doing it.
You recall doing it, working with the reporter on it.
Right.
Okay. And when you were working with the reporter on it and it came out, do you recall reading it when it was published on February the 3rd?
Right.
Okay. And when it came out, do you recall anything in there that you said, man, this is wrong?
I recall some things that was put in there that I wish she hadn't have put it in there the way she put it in there, I believe.
As you
If
sit
that's
here,
the article I'm thinking about.
Okay. As we sit here today, do you recall what you wish she hadn't put in there like she put in?
Her talking about my dad, I don't know, sometimes I think they pick up some of this stuff from other people and put it in there whenever you're doing an interview with them.
There has been some discussion in the press about your relationship with your father, hasn't there?
There has.
And some discussion in the press about how perhaps you were abused by your father, correct?
I was not.
But there's been that discussion, correct?
There has.
There has been. You love your father?
Very much so.
I think every son loves his father. One of the, as this article talks about the DNA, it also talks about, in your linkage to the DNA that's found at the scene, it talks about damage to your reputation, doesn't it?
Okay. Yes.
I mean, it does. That was one of the things that you really wanted to get out to Ms. Fry, which is how all of this discussion has ruined your reputation, right?
Right.
And February 3, 2008, that was a month and a half after the letter posted, the letter by Ms. Pasdar, right?
Okay,
Well, the letter by Ms. Pasdar was November the 26th, 07, right?
right,
And it was after, a little more than a month after the rally, because the rally was in December, right?
right.
And this article is an attempt by you to get out to the public how your reputation's been ruined by the defense allegations, right?
All the above.
Nowhere in here do you mention at all Ms. Pasdar or the rally or the Dixie Chicks, do you?
I don't know, I haven't read it in a while.
Briefly look through it, sir, and tell me if and anywhere when you're trying to get your story out to the press of where your reputation's been ruined by these allegations, where in that story you talk about the rally, the Dixie Chicks, or Miss Pasdar. It's not a single word in there about them, is it? On the second page of the article, it talks about how in February that you learned that the DNA has been linked to you, correct? February 07? Right?
That's when them investigators showed up at my house, and they were the ones who told me
Right.
about that.
Right. That's the first time you knew about it.
Right.
Right.
In 16 years, or 15 years at the time.
And then it says here in March, so that March 7, that'd be March 7 of 07, right?
I'm not sure. It doesn't have a year on it.
Well, we talk about February 07, and then it says on March 7, I'm assuming 07, you suffered an emotional breakdown. Did you suffer an emotional breakdown in March of 07?
I ain't going to say what year, but yeah, I had some problems
What
with
was it?
all this crap.
And that was in the spring of 07, right?
I ain't going to say what year.
Well, what year was it? When did you have an emotional breakdown? You put a sign in your front yard, putting your contacts up for sale, and you lived in your yellow Ford pickup with your teenage daughter. That was spring of 07, right?
And yeah, if that's the day on here, yes.
All right. And so you had the breakdown. You were feeling the effects of all the pressure building up. That was months and months prior to the time that Ms. Pasdar put her letter on the internet or spoke at the rally, right?
Looks like it.
All right. So she certainly didn't have any cause. She didn't cause any of that, the emotional breakdown in 07 or the living in your pickup truck with your daughter. And the daughter's Amanda, right?
It is.
Object to the extent that requires legal conclusion relative to causation.
Other than, I want to back up for a second. Before lunch, we were talking about the rally. Other than your brothers, have you spoken with anybody about what Ms. Pasdar said at the rally? And your lawyers. I'm not seeking to, I don't want to know what you told your lawyers about the rally or what Ms. Pasdar said. But other than your brothers that you told me about before lunch, have you spoken with anybody about the rally or what Natalie said?
I'm not sure.
As we sit here today, can you recall of any discussions that you've had with anybody about the rally or what Ms. Pasdar said, other than your lawyers?
I'm not sure.
See, when you say I'm not sure, Mr. Hobbs, and I appreciate that I don't want you to guess or speculate, but this is my one chance to find out. And so if you know of someone that you spoke with, I need to know that so that we can ask questions about it or figure out if it's something I need to talk to. If you don't believe or you don't recall anyone, then simply tell me that, and we can move on to something else.
I've had friends come by. I had one friend that I don't have anymore because of this.
And I'm talking about specifically the statements at the rally.
Exactly.
Okay. Who was
Or not the rally. I'm talking about the Natalie Pastar's,
letter?
not her statements, by her actions, showing up and jumping on the bandwagon. Let's bash Mr. Hobbs. The more people that got on the bandwagon, the more people started to believe it.
So it's not what she said, it's just the fact that she was physically present in Little Rock?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, do you not, well, let's back
Her
up.
presence evidently meant something to somebody.
Okay. Who is this friend? Former friend?
Larry Mano,
Where does Larry Mano live?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Do you have an address for him?
Not on me.
Do you know what part of town he lives in?
I do.
What part of town does he live in?
I don't know his address.
I asked what part.
East side.
East side. Does he work with you?
No.
No? How do you know Larry?
We have worked in the past together
Where?
in construction.
Okay. How long have you known Larry?
I don't know. I don't know how many years.
Is he a good friend or an acquaintance?
He has been.
Has been. When did, but you don't recall when you first met him. When did Larry say he didn't want to be your friend anymore?
He never made a statement like that.
Okay. Well, how would you describe your relationship with him now?
I ain't have one with him.
Okay. And the reason is because Natalie appeared at the rally?
The reason, I ain't going to say the reason is, but the day I went by to visit with him,
Mm-hmm.
he told me, he said, Terry, he said, you've got all these people after you, and he called out the Dixie Chicks' name. And it's like he's starting to believe it, because the more people got out there and said my name, the more I felt like he believed them.
Okay. Did you try to convince him you didn't have anything to do with it?
I tried.
What'd you tell him?
The truth.
Which is? I didn't do it?
Yeah. I didn't do it, and I don't care what all them yodel brains got to say about it.
And he didn't believe you?
I felt like he didn't.
Okay. Okay. Well, now, the press had been kind of building up or reporting the DNA findings and whatnot for several months, beginning the spring of '07 going forward until Natalie made her letter, posted her letter, right?
Okay.
Well,
Sounds good.
Isn't that right? Isn't that what happened? Right? Let's look at document 9 and stipulation 1, which is the July 20, 2007 report from Action News. Action News, that's Janice Broach, right? That's the lady you dealt with, right? Wanted to get your story out, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's the same Janice,
It
right?
is.
And Action 5 News,
Right.
Action News 5, that's where she works, right? Right?
Right.
Did she, in fact, and this is a report of she reported, did they not, Channel 5 News on July the 20th, 2007, new DNA testing by the defense shows that none of the genetic material recovered from the murder scene links the West Memphis 3 to the scene. Instead, defense attorneys say the test found DNA from Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of one of the murdered boys. They reported that in July of 2007, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you start to get some calls from neighbors or friends when this was reported by Janice?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And was this report, July the 27th report, was this a result of you reaching out to her to try to get your story out? Because you say I'd have to laugh at that and say there's something wrong with someone who would think that. This is part of your trying to get the story out about the DNA, right?
Probably. Looks like it.
Looks like it. In here, this Exhibit 9 to Stipulation 1, you say all those things in there? Are you accurately quoted, Mr. Hobbs?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. And so you did say if Michael Moore or Christopher Byers had a piece of my hair on their shoestrings, well, these little boys came to my house and played with our little boy pretty regularly, Hobbs said. Well, you said that, right?
Right.
Right. And so it's also reported here by Channel 5 News that the DNA results also revealed, according to court documents, that most of the DNA at the crime scene came from the victims, but some of it cannot be connected to the victims or the defendants. I don't know what to make of that, Hobbs said. It's their job to do what they do. You quoted that, right? You quoted correctly there?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. And some of that DNA is also leaked to Mr. Jacoby, right?
I don't know. There's one in so many million that could be him or could not be him. Same with mine.
So it's it's your belief and your understanding that the DNA reports show that it's pretty common to have a match like that? Is that your understanding?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Just asking for your understanding.
No.
No, it's pretty common that it's a pretty close match from your, isn't it?
No, not what I understand it wasn't.
What do you understand it to be?
One in so many millions it could have been. And no one has ever told me it's your hair or it's David's hair. The defense has come up with this and tried to convince everybody it was. The police has never one time said yes it was to me.
Okay.
Tricks of the trade, y'all call it.
And we'll talk about it in a minute. Exhibit 10 to Stipulation 1. Another article, or another newscast from Channel 8 in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Mother of West Memphis 3 victims speaks out about the new DNA evidence. Oh, I have one question, I'm sorry. Back here on Exhibit 9. Talk about, according to court documents. Did you have an understanding of what court documents they're referring to here? The DNA results also revealed according to most documents. That's the habeas filing, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Did you understand that to be when you spoke with Janice, trying to get your story out, that was the court filings?
Just by point of clarification, the habeas filing occurred in October. This was months before the habeas filing. That can't be the habeas filing.
Do you know what court documents they're referring to? In the newscast on Channel 8 in Jonesboro, July 20, 2007, the TV station reports, now over a decade later, defense attorneys are saying a piece of hair found in one of the victim's shoelaces could link the crime scene to Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs. I mean, and I can go through several of these, Mr. Hobbs, and I don't need to, or don't necessarily want to, but would it be fair to say that starting in late spring, early summer, 2007, it was fairly well known to those that followed the West Memphis 3 case that your DNA had been linked to the crime scene?
Objection, he can't possibly know what other people thought based on news reports.
Can I ask what he thinks? You think it's pretty well known that at least your DNA, it was out there in the press. The press was reporting that your DNA was linked to the crime scene.
Right, the press was reporting that.
Okay. Okay.
But it still doesn't mean that any of that out there was my DNA.
I appreciate that.
Or it doesn't mean that to me.
Did you ever talk to the police about the DNA?
No.
They never asked you about it?
Oh, I'm not sure. And I went and answered some questions with them. I don't remember what kind of questions we had. I've done that video with them. I read that thing, and that's a joke.
What video? The press conference?
No, no.
What video, Mr. Hobbs?
One that they got me in that room asking me all them questions.
That's part of when the West Memphis Police, then interviewed you again in June of '07.
Okay,
Is that right?
sounds close.
And how many times have you been interviewed by the West Memphis Police in conjunction with the murders?
None, probably. This one they did. I'm thinking there might have been one I know I went and done fingerprints and feet prints, and I'm still never not a suspect, and I wasn't one back then. Please note that. And I have made this statement: if you think I'm a suspect, call the police department. They'll clear that up for you.
On Channel 5, July the 21st, this is document number 12 in stipulation 1, Miss Broach says, but now new DNA testing shows a hair from one of the boy's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, was found in shoelaces to tie up the eight-year-old boys.
So?
So I'm just saying that it was reported widely that your DNA was found, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was reported widely well prior to the time that Ms. Pasdar posted her letter or appeared at the rally, right?
It was going on at the time she jumped on the bandwagon.
On Channel 5 on the 21st, they also talk about finding the knives and the knife that Stevie's grandfather had given him in your stuff.
So?
Did you have in your possession, Mr. Hobbs?
Oh, no. I think I still have his pocket knife.
You have Stevie's pocket knife?
I think so.
And is that a pocket knife that Stevie carried with him on a
Until
regular
I
basis?
found it. Until I seen
Where-
my stepson, who wasn't old enough to have a pocket knife, I felt like I took the pocket knife from him and put it in a drawer with the rest of our pocket knives.
Okay. How would you respond to witnesses who would testify that Stevie carried that knife with him up until the time that he disappeared?
I think you'll find out people will say anything, but they don't have the facts.
What facts do you have to prove that you took the knife from Stevie?
I was his dad. I was acting as a responsible parent, not letting a 6, 7, 8-year-old little boy carry a pocket knife.
Aren't you aware that his mother, said that he carried the knife with him up until the time that he disappeared?
She also said I killed the boys too. And yes, I'm very much aware of all that.
Okay. The knives were reported in in the letter that Ms. Pasdar posted on the internet, wasn't it?
Okay.
Well, that's one of the things, right? That you're complaining about that.
Object to the characterization of him complaining about the knives. In fact, the Eccles petition says that knives were not used.
Document 13 to stipulation 1, Mr. Hobbs. It is an article from the Crittenden Times written by Laura Smith. Have you seen this one before?
I don't remember.
Where's Crittenden, Arkansas?
Crittenden County.
I'm sorry.
Crittenden County.
Where is
West
that?
Memphis, Arkansas.
It's in West Memphis. Do you remember talking to Laura Smith?
I have talked to Laura a lot.
Talked to her a lot over the years?
Mm-hmm.
Over the year, from
As a friend?
as a friend and as a reporter?
Right.
Do you have a relationship with her as a friend as opposed to a reporter?
Well, she was just being a friend. I think she was a curious reporter.
Curious reporter who tried to who befriended you. Okay. Fair enough. Have you ever been aware that the police department, in light of the that the police department has attributed the DNA found on the suspects that is attributed to you to secondary transfer?
I've heard rumored that, but I'm satisfied with that.
You're satisfied with that?
Yeah,
What do you mean by that? You're satisfied with that?
because it happens.
Secondary transfer?
I could walk out here today with some of your DNA on me.
Don't know how to respond to that. Exhibit 13 to Stipulation 1. Talk about the new DNA. But the news of the DNA, the results of the DNA testing on the crime scene evidence has brought local and national attention back to the victims' families, to the 3 men in prison for the murders, and West Memphis itself. Would you agree, Mr. Hobbs, that the results of the DNA testing in the summer of '07 brought national and local attention back to the families, the men in prison, West Memphis itself?
That sounds like it's one reporter's opinion,
Do you agree with that opinion?
not necessarily.
Do you disagree
Not
with
to
it?
the families.
Okay, do you disagree that it brought local and national attention back to the events, the murder,
Okay,
who did it? Would you agree with that?
sure.
Sure. The article goes on to say that the results found that no genetic material recovered at this crime scene belonged to Eccles, the West Memphis 3, and with the exception of one hair, all of the DNA recovered at the scene that was tested belonged to the victims. The hair was reportedly Hobbs's, meaning yours, and police attributed his hair to secondary transfer. So would you agree?
About time they spoke up.
Well, so they're saying it's your hair, but it's secondary transfer, right? That's how you read that, right?
Yeah, that's how you
Okay.
just read it.
Well, I mean, is that what you understood, that in the summer of '07, when the police were asked to comment on the hair, they said, well, it's Mr. Hobbs's, but it's secondary transfer. Is that how you read that?
That's how I just read it.
And you agree with that?
What's that?
That it's
That it is secondary?
that it,
I ain't
that-
gonna say it is, 'cause I don't know.
Okay. But you agree that at least in the summer of '07, the police attributed it as your hair, but it said it got there by secondary transfer.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to you. Here's an article by the American Chronicle, August 15, 2007. It's Exhibit 14 to Stipulation 1, and by a fellow named Frank Brooks. You ever talk to Frank Brooks at the American Chronicle?
No.
No? Okay. And it talks about, not surprising given the time frame, August of 2007, talks about the DNA in the reports. The paragraph here, the third full paragraph on the second page. Well, that's another. According to DNA status report filed by the defense and acknowledged by the prosecution, DNA evidence has arisen that cannot be linked to either defendants or the victims. As of this time, there is no identity match for the DNA except for one surprising piece of evidence. One surprising piece of evidence that managed to turn up: a strand of hair belonging to Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, was found intertwined with a knot in one of the shoelaces used to tie up one of the victims. This is no longer a case of similarity or possibility. Terry Hobbs has been genetically matched to the scene of the crime through DNA testing. Do you recall seeing this article?
No.
No?
No.
Articles like it?
Similar, yeah.
Okay. Did you sue Mr. Brooks or the American Chronicle?
Oh, not yet.
Not yet?
I need a copy of that.
Well, your lawyers have it. It's been
Okay.
produced. It's been stipulated. This was out there in the public months prior to Ms. Pasdar making the statements that you completed.
Let's just put him on the list.
Put him on the list. A little more vengeance. Our Exhibit 16, Stipulation 1. This is something from the internet, stipulated to the democraticunderground.com, entitled Eccles Attorneys File New Motion Claiming Wrongful Conviction in West Memphis 3 Case. You're aware that there are many message boards and blogs that talk about the case, right, Mr. Hobbs?
Sure.
Matter of fact,
Here's one.
well, that's actually on the internet. It's not a blog, but fair enough. Fair enough. Have you ever posted on the internet blogs
No.
about this case?
No.
How about anyone on your behalf? Your brothers, your family?
I have asked my family not to do this. We don't believe in lowering ourselves to this level, or this level, if you will.
Mhm.
That's how we are raised.
Okay. Do you know if your brothers or others on your behalf have filed and made postings on the blogs?
I don't know that.
What about Mr. Sampson when he was acting as your press agent or press spokesman?
I never told him to.
Did you tell him not to?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. The statement that is on Exhibit 16, it talks about the evidence in today's filings include, and then there are several, 6, 7 bullet points. 8 bullet points. Those are the same bullet points that you complained of Ms. Pasdar, right?
I'm not sure.
Even to the point of the filing includes a chronology of Hobbs' activity on the night of the crimes when he washed his clothes for no other reason than to hide evidence of the crimes. It's almost word for word, isn't it?
Sound like it.
And this is over a month prior to Ms. Pasdar's posting, correct?
And
I'm just saying these same statements and these same allegations were posted worldwide and the subject of national media attention prior to the time that Ms. Pasdar made the statements that you're complaining of, right?
okay.
That's correct, right?
Object is to form. It's one publication. He has no personal knowledge as to where the extent of that one publication.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Hobbs, that these types of factual statements and allegations were the subject of national and international, I think you said earlier, attention, starting in the spring of '07, basically up and through today?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Correct?
Correct.
You didn't sue any of these people, right? You need to put them on the list?
Yeah, not yet.
No, yeah, we'll put them on the list.
I hope I can deal with every one of them.
Arkansas Online Press Services, October 30, '07. Again, reports in October of '07 that hair matching your DNA is found at the crime scene. Right? There are a bunch.
Page
would
after
be fair to say
page,
there would
I've seen it.
page after page after page, week after week after week of those allegations. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And that all happens. It happened long before Ms. Pasdar made her statements, but it certainly continues to today. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. In fact, here's
Well,
one
you
from
kind of justify her doing it.
I get to ask my questions, sir. In fact, here's an article from the Los Angeles Times talking about, which is Exhibit 18 to Stipulation 1, talking about your DNA found at the crime scene. Another hair found on a tree root at the crime scene contained the DNA of David Jacoby, who, according to court documents, was with his friend Hobbs in the hours before and after the victims disappeared. That's true too, right?
Probably.
Well, not probably. It is true, isn't it?
What? David was with me
David was with you before and after, right?
before.
And after the victims disappeared.
he was at home when I went by his house, and he went to work the next morning, and as he went to work.
Can't explain how his hair got there, can you?
Other
Object is
than
to form, assumes the fact, not in evidence.
Can you explain how DNA consistent with Mr. Jacoby's DNA was found at the crime scene, Mr. Hobbs?
I don't think it was found at the crime scene. It might have been found in the woods. I don't think it was at the crime scene, like you're saying.
If it was found at the crime scene, would that be a damning fact in your opinion?
No,
No?
because me and him never have been to the crime scene. I didn't go there a long time after it.
Have you ever been there?
Sure,
When did you first go to the crime scene?
probably a year later.
Why?
My wife wanted me to go with her. She felt like she needed to go.
Okay. Did you got access, I think you said you had internet and had access to the internet, right?
At the time,
At the time. What about today?
you can always go to the library and get on it.
Yes, sir, you can. You're aware that the West Memphis 3 defense team held a press conference, are you not?
When?
At the time that the DNA filings, at the time that the habeas was filed?
I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen the video of the press conference that's on the West Memphis 3 website?
Probably not. Now, just because we're related to it, don't mean we care about everything that goes along with it.
Has anyone ever told you about the defense team's press conference at the time they filed the habeas?
Just the one they done in Memphis.
When did they do the one in Memphis? trying to
I'm
figure-
asking you, is that the one you're talking about?
Well, what press conferences are you aware? I
That's
believe
what I
it.
thought.
I believe it is.
Yeah, never mind. I don't know if it was or not.
Well, did you watch a video of a press conference that the defense team held in Memphis, Mr. Hobbs?
Probably. I
Probably.
seen them acting, see them doing something on there. I don't know what it was about.
And about the DNA,
It was.
about your DNA,
Yeah.
and about Jacoby's DNA,
Objecting to characterization, that's
I don't
actually
know if it-
opposite of what the video says.
and the knives.
See, when you see this stuff, most time I don't watch it.
Okay. Well, did you watch it or not? I'm not asking about most time. I said, did you watch the
Probably
video?
some of it, then I don't care much about what anybody on that defense team has to say.
Okay. Well,
So I would turn it.
why'd you watch some of it?
Because people call you up and say, hey, turn it over here and watch this.
Okay.
And you might turn over and catch a piece of it, and it's over with.
Just like your attorney filed a press release when he filed this lawsuit, are you aware that the defense team filed a press release when they made their habeas filings?
I just told you.
No, you didn't tell me, sir. My question is entirely different, which is, are you aware that there's a difference between a press statement and a press conference? Are you aware that at the time that the defense team filed their habeas that they issued a written press release?
Probably not.
Never seen it.
I'd have to see it to recognize it.
Okay? That's his. Yeah. Let me hand you Mr. Hobbs, what's been marked as Deposition Exhibit 4, and ask if you have seen this document before.
don't believe I have.
Is this press release consistent with your understanding of what was announced by the West Memphis 3 defense team at the time the habeas filing was done?
Object to the characterization of the press release. Assumes fact not in evidence.
This is from who?
The defense team?
I might have seen it, and I don't remember.
Would you have seen it at the time that it was filed or issued?
Probably not.
When
Coming
would you-
from the defense team, I don't follow them too much. Especially since they was all hating on me.
Well, you visited a lot with their investigators, didn't you?
A few times until I figured out what they was up to.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Hobbs, that the bullet points that are on the first and those 8 bullet points that are on the first and second page of the press release are, in fact, the same information that's contained in Ms. Pazdar's November 26th letter?
Familiar.
I'm sorry?
Looks like it.
Okay.
But it's talking about some wrong statements.
Wrong statements that,
Pastor made.
well, they're statements that the defense team made that you disagree with. that Ms.
Objection,
that
object to
Ms. Pat-
characterization. We don't
you know,
know
can-
where that document came from. It's not an authentic document.
If that is in fact the press release that was issued by the defense team, would you agree with me, Mr. Hobbs, that the statements that Ms. Pazdar made are simply the same statements that the defense team said were supported in their federal court filings?
I don't know.
Well, it
I'm
isn't.
not sure.
Isn't it a fact that the statements?
Because I'm reading this right here, and this is a wrong statement. This place is Hobbs at the crime scene. Didn't happen.
Isn't it a fact that Ms. Pazdar's statements are simply a restatement of what the West Memphis 3 defense team said that was contained in the habeas filings?
Restate the objection.
It's fine. Isn't that
I
what she
don't know.
did?
I don't know.
We need to, I think the court reporter, the videographer says we need to change tape.
We are going off record for a tape change at 2:07 p.m.